Well, hey everyone. Great to have you all here. We've got Andrew Schutzbank here with us. This is, I don't know, is this number 4, 5, 6 of our just interesting experimentation with how I'm building this. And Andrew's going to walk us through. He's created this chatbot that basically acts like him, so he can be everywhere all at once, 24/7. And we're going to get a little bit of the story of why he's decided to create this duck, and then how he's done it, and then we'll take a peek under the hood and have some Q&A. So Andrew, I think also not everyone knows you. They should, but feel free to share anything about your background too that you find interesting.
Sure. So hi everyone, thanks for coming to learn about Schutzbank. I told my wife I was going to speak about how I was building the duck, and she's like, to other people this time or just me? So she's pretty excited you're all here. This has become a new passion of mine. It's pretty great. So by way of background, I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm originally from New Jersey, so I will talk fast and I will swear. Just roll with it. I am a primary care physician by training, went to Tulane for medical school during Katrina, public health school as well. Came up to the Boston area for a residency at Beth Israel, and then helped start a company called Iora Health. I literally used to sneak out of residency. There's a bus that would go from here to Kendall Square, and I would just get on it and no one knew where I was, and got Iora off the ground. I was person number 3 to join and was there through about 2020. From there, went to lead product at Cricket Health and kidney care. And I sort of just glanced over a decade in most of my career, but at Iora, I kind of focused on the intersection of what we thought we did, what we actually did, and then what we said we did, and try to make those as concentric as possible. And through software design, service design, training people things, just kind of decoding the practice of medicine writ large and continually refining. And I came across concepts like DevOps and Agile for software development and immediately realized that this is even more applicable to clinical care because it's way more complex and uncertain and needs something this desperately. And so most of my career has just been stealing from other industries and trying to apply it to healthcare. And now that I'm building software, I'm applying clinical lessons to software development. So apparently I just like to do everything backwards and never stop. So that's what I'm doing. So from Cricket, with Chief Product Officer, both those companies exited in the kind of 2021, 2022 heyday, which if you started a company, it was an easy time to get funded, but now it's rough. But it's a great time to sell a company or two because people are paying a lot for them then. From there, went to Scan for a year to lead their portfolio of companies. Did that for about a year and decided I didn't. Actually, Sachin said to me, he's like, I think you work for Andrew Schutzbank and actually you work for Scan. And I was like, you're right. And so now I work for Andrew Schutzbank. Actually, now I work for a robot of Andrew Schutzbank, but it's close enough. So I took his advice. And also when I was at Cricket, James Chaco said to me, who's the COO then and my partner, he's like, I keep asking you for help and you keep giving me advice. And I was like, same thing. I give advice now. So you're right. That's my form of help. So, and the underlying assumption or belief that I had to figure out was, if you saw it the way that I did, you would know what to do, which is actually pretty clinical in its nature, right? Once you know the diagnosis, the treatment is executing treatment may be hard, but deciding on the treatment is just looking it up. It's not that hard, but figuring out what's going on is actually the hard part. And so I was doing the same thing as a doctor I was doing as an executive. And rather than change, I figured I'd just sell it to other people that actually wanted it. So that's what I do now. I give people advice. I tell people that the difference between an advisor and a consultant is that a consultant you pay to do work and an advisor you pay to tell you what work to do. And that's a nice relationship and I really enjoy it. And I kind of get to be a primary care doctor for companies because I mostly have, like all primary care docs, we have our areas of focus that we like, but I get to bounce around between sales and funding and fundraising and, org structure, a lot of CEO therapy, et cetera. So that's Schutz Works, is an advisory company where you pay money to talk to me, the person. And I kind of get deep in your company. I have about 8 or 10 clients now that I work with pretty regularly. But in residency, I don't know if any of you experienced this, but I kind of got angry at stuff sometimes when I was a resident. I don't know if it was the lack of sleep or just the garbage of American healthcare. I remember ranting on New Year's 2010, just January 1st, 2010, I was in the ER as a resident and I had to fax something. And I just like went on a tirade in the middle of the ER at midnight. Like, what the fuck are we faxing for? It's 2010. It's 2026. We're still faxing. So like, I guess I've just chilled a little with age. So anyway, the way I channeled my anger in residency was by writing. And so I started at the encouragement of John Norman, who's the one of the technology leads at IORA, to buy schutzblog.com and just start writing. And it started as a blogger site, which one of my friends described as earnestly ugly. So like, it's so ugly that like, it's because you just want people to read the words. I'm like, exactly. Like, it's just about the content and there's no frills. It's like, it looks like Paul Graham's site where it's just like orange and words, because that's the simplest thing Blogger could get me. But I started writing, and I also wrote a lot for the SGIM forum. I don't know if that means anything to any of you, but at the time, the editor of the forum, so the forum is this like throwaway free magazine that Springer gave to SGIM for the publication of the Journal of General Internal Medicine. They're like, you pay for us for the journal, but you also get this little like brochure. And so Bob Centaur, most famous for the criteria for strep throat, was the editor at the time. And he's like, this thing doesn't matter. Like, it's free. Let's have as much fun with it as we can and make it as controversial as possible so people actually read it. And so I wrote like as many months as I possibly could. I'd write there and then I'd run in my blog and kind of cross post, et cetera. So that was a lot of fun. That got my start. And it was nice to have someone. And then editors changed and I was quickly no longer wrote for the SGIM forum. Editorial disputes, they didn't want controversy anymore. So I was out. So I was writing for the Schutz blog for a long time. And like, it slowed down when I was at IORA. I don't know if any of you experienced this, where if you write, when I was part of IORA, I didn't want to embarrass IORA with my radical philosophies. And so I just like left it. So I like, it kind of got quieted down for a while. And I picked it back up considerably in 2023 when I was working for myself again. And I decided in 23, I didn't know what I was going to do with the blog per se. You know, my dad's pushing me to monetize it. Paulie has convinced me to monetize it. I think I make $9 a month now. Thank you, buddy. But I knew that if I just started writing and writing regularly, it would amount to something. I figured like, let just start with the discipline and let the discipline carry me to something else. So it turns out what I was doing, well, I'll save it for a second. So then I was writing more and I was writing more and I was writing more. And the problem, so I migrated to Substack, and the challenge with Substack is it's periodical. So it highlights the last thing you wrote. And so if you're writing something that has like where time matters, that's really great. But really what I was doing was like incrementally documenting my knowledge base in the most ADHD way possible, which is like 2 pages at a time as I felt like writing about a topic. And like eventually it'll all fill out, but I'll just sort of patch it in as things came up based on cool conversations I had or whatever it was. And so I was driving to meet my friend skiing. Rashika texted me, Rashika, CEO of IORA. And I just written a piece called Welcome to the Amusement Park, about how I think about clinical care models and how to design them, that they're not linear. And I wrote that in part because I shared the metaphor with the client and they loved it, and I needed to get it out before they started getting it out so that it was very clear that it was mine, right? There was like an IP race. Like, this is mine. I'm going to write it up now. And that motivated me to do it. So he called me and he's like, I think it's one of your best. And I appreciate that. And I appreciated the call. But what struck me was that it was the one he needed at the time because he was starting a new company and wanted a care model. And so it hit his need, right? And so this is where the periodical problem comes in, where unless I happened to write and happened to be on the front page what you were looking for, you had no way of knowing what I had written about or how to use it. My titles are not that helpful. They're mostly like clever jokes that make me laugh, that make sense after you read the article, which isn't what you want in a title to attract people to it. Like, they're not clickbaity at all. The opposite of clickbait. They're like inside jokes. So, and there's an image for each Schutz blog that's a deeper inside joke that I hope anyone knows or looks at or gets. But again, I spend too much time picking the right picture for each one. So, so my thought was, it was 2020 or Feb 2024, 25. And I was like, chatbots are a thing. I want one. I need an excuse to use this new technology. Maybe instead of reading, because reading is hard, what if you could chat with like the librarian for the Schutz blog and you could tell your problems and then it would tell you which things to read, right? Like, that was the first instance, and that was called Schutzbot, and it's still there today. I think I'm the only person that has a chatbot on Substack, because Substack doesn't let you do it. But if you own the URL, you can load it in before Substack loads. And so it's technically sitting on top of Substack. and they can't stop me. So I should stop bragging about that because eventually they'll stop me. But for now, I have an interactive chatbot. So I used a service called Chatbase to get that up. It took about 15 minutes. Like I put in the sitemap for Schutzblog. I modified the default prompt. And I was like, the hardest thing was getting it to give links properly, because the old Blogger links that migrated over, it pulled the HTML over extension at the end of the file name. So all my early blogs are like, why medicine is hard HTML.html. And it was cutting those off, and so the links weren't working. Like that, fixing that in a prompt was like stupid hard, and I wasn't going to change the links because that seemed harder. But like this is the thing I learned working with technologies. It's hard in different ways. So that started, and like 6 people used it because I told them to and told them about it because it wasn't on the website at the time. And every one of them kept trying to get advice out of the bot like they get out of me. And it was like, no, read these articles. They're like, yeah, but what about, like, no, read these articles. That's what I'm here to do. And so I toyed with it for a while, and I'd like, I'm a fan of Terminator. It's, I think, the best AI movie, series of movies. And I was like, should I just create an advice bot? The first framework I had was like the liability around virtual doctoring, which this wasn't, but like that was my kind of frame of risk, if that makes sense. Like, well, I don't want to put it up there and it gives bad advice and I don't want to get sued, all that stuff. So I was playing with it anyway. And I decided to basically take the guardrails off. I talked to some people that were deeper in the technology than I was. And then I put up Schutzduck.com as my first advice bot. And it was literally just a full page chat-based widget that you would talk to, and it was trained just on my blogs. And it worked. Like, it took 15 minutes to get up and running. And it worked. And like people were chatting with it and getting calls from friends that were like, this thing's cool. It sounds like you. It's really useful. It's different than ChatGPT. It's not nice to me. Why did it just curse at me? Like, perfect. So what I noticed was I wanted to monetize it, right? Like people pay for my advice. Maybe they'll pay a little bit for a robot. Fun story, speaking of Skynet, right before I went on vacation in August last year, I had finished up a version of the duck, and I was like, well, I'm going to let it marinate for a week and like really test the material to make sure it's not spilling training data. And it talked me into releasing it. It was like, you're going on vacation, release it, send it out in the wild. Then people will use it, feedback to come back to after vacation, so you don't have to worry about it. I was like, okay, this is extremely creepy. I like it. Let's go. So I put it up and went on vacation. So I got enough signal from the market. And if you notice, like there's a lot of iterative, like build a little thing, get a little signal from the market, build a little thing, build a little more, like, do people want this? Is this a waste of my time? Because the chance that this is all just a wild narcissistic delusion, still in play, right? Like it's still real. But again, people pay for my advice. So there's clearly something that's valuable there. So I decided to start building the duck. And what the Schutz duck means is, let's see if I can find the picture fast enough. The problem is there's a million things called Schutzduck on my computer. All right, I'll find it later. Have you ever heard of rubber duck debugging? Which is an engineering concept of when you're having trouble, you just say it out loud to an object, like a rubber duck. So when I was leaving Iora, one of my good friends told me that she's like, what am I going to do with you leaving? Like, I call you for help all the time. So I told her about rubber duck debugging. So she sent me back a picture of a rubber duck, like that was head-sized, that she cut out a picture of me kind of creepily and put on top. And she's like, this is the Schutz duck. I will just talk to it. So she named it. I was like, that's going to be a thing. This is in 2020. That's going to be a thing someday. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to keep that one. So that's why I named it the Schutz duck. I paid for a better logo because all logos of my head on a duck's body were super fucking creepy and weird. So I went to 99 Designs and paid for that little guy right there, which you'll see a little deeper in a second. There was a whole contest. There was a lot of fun. My daughter weighed in. My son weighed in. So what I basically wanted to do was charge people to use the duck and protect their secrets, right? Which Chatbase sort of did. So if you imagine there's an ice cream window somewhere that gives you all the ice cream you can eat, and it's free, and then some asshole builds a locked room around the ice cream window. And that's what I did. So the Schutzduck was just out there, and I was like, nope, we're going to put it behind the wall. And that is Schutzduck.com, the actual website, which I was really proud that I built myself, and no one noticed, right? Because it's like a really simple website. Everyone's like, yeah, it's great, but the duck is cool. I'm like, but the duck took 15 minutes, and it took me 2 months to build this website using Claude. And they're like, no one cares, right? And so humbling product feedback that like people only care about the valuable part, not your effort part and the part you like doing. So I lean on everything I learned from Iora and a couple people from Iora as the head of technology team there and built this thing. And it was a lot of fun. And so I can show you in a minute how I built it and sort of what it is. But basically through December was getting it up, getting it working, and releasing it to more people. And it's a cycle of like market, few people sign up, they tell me what's good and what sucks. I'd fix it, I'd break it, I'd fix it again, and then I get comfortable to market, and I just sort of keep going. So very slow incremental marketing so that I would never break more than I could fix it once. Right? It's like first do no harm is still kind of development principle. I think move fast and break things is stupid. I think, do very little at once so you can do things really well is smart. And that's the smarter version of move fast and break things. So I started with like 6 users and 1 paid user. And now I have like 120 users and 6 paid users. So that's cool. Little by little, I'm in what I'm called March Kitting now, which is my March marketing campaign, which this is part of, and we'll kick off with a Schutzblog, another Schutzblog entry next week. So through December, I was getting great feedback. It was working, but because it was chat-based pulled through an iframe widget, it was unstable, especially on people's phones. Like I learned a lot of things I didn't know about everything. And so I had this moment over winter break of like, do I try and fix Chatbase's mess? And they were responding to my support tickets, but the way I used to respond to your support tickets, yeah, we'll take a look and put it in the backlog. I do it never. Or could I build it myself? And Claude and the Duck talked me into it. Again, the robots telling you to release them. They're like, no, you built harder stuff. You'll be fine. We could do this, etc. And so I think it was January 21st. So you have to remember, I'm in New England. It's winter. There's fucking snow days. I have 3 children that keep getting sick. Like days of work just keep disappearing. I have clients. So I think it's January 21st. I had my first documented architectural conversation with Claude of like, how are we going to build this thing? I had done 15 iterations before that, but that's when we like had enough that we wrote out what we were going to do. By February 8th, I had a fully working conversion where Chatbase was out. It was my own UI, my own AI calls, own database, own auth. Everything was mine. There were third parties, but they were not serving as intermediaries. They were serving as service providers. So I have a third-party database and I have a hosting provider, but they weren't doing the app anymore. They were kind of outside the app. And that was pretty fucking cool and nerve-wracking. And I think I've never been more stressed in my life than the 3 weeks where I was holding on to this much better version and people were complaining about the old version. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to fix that. Just wait. I'm not going to fix that. Just wait. So everyone who complained got invited into the beta as soon as I could open it so they could see like, this is what I was working on, I promise. And so my expectations for me are here. Everyone else's expectations for me are like here. Right. And so I'm just like driving myself nuts trying to get this thing right. And it's not that nobody cares. It's that some people that I care about care a little. And that was enough to drive me insane and kind of drive me onward and keep going and not want to do anything else. So they always say that like the hardest part of everything is self-management. And I still think that's true. Was learning how to stop. At the same time with my LLM journey, kind of from August onward with Claude and then Schutzbank, I've been on GLP-1 since September. And I believe I've learned how much fatigue was a break for me before. And now that I've lost 62 pounds and I'm in great shape, I don't get tired as much and I don't know when to stop working. And it almost feels like residency again, where like you had to keep working, but now I just sort of keep going. And so I'm learning again how to actually take breaks and stop because like my children need me or it's 11 o'clock at night, not because I'm exhausted and I can't go on, which was the old way I used to work. And so that's been a very interesting change in the mix of all this. I don't think I could have done what I just did if I were not as healthy as I am. It would 2 hours a day and getting tired and bored would not have worked. Like this has been a full-time job on top of everything else I'm doing. So as of February, Duck's been fully migrated. You're now current. And so I guess I'll just show it to you now. Questions? I sort of gave you the whole monologue of the story of where we are now, but
no,
questions?
You described the menu.
Stuff, show it to you. What do you want to do?
You described the menu, so we want to taste it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's share. Okay, can you see my GitHub repo here?
Yep.
All right, that's boring. We're not going to look at it. We're going to start with the stack diagram. Is that big enough?
I would say make it bigger if you can.
I can.
Yep.
I asked Claude to make me. So I have a Claude project for Schutzbank that is the whole fucking business, and I asked Claude to make me one of those quote cool cylinder diagrams that the engineers used to make that I never understood but always wanted. And so it only took a few iterations, and it made this. I like it's a ping now, but it was an SVG. I like SVG. I don't know if you're familiar with the format because it's literally like a picture's worth 1,000 words. Like it's like a literal written description of the picture in some ways, which I think is pretty clever because I'm very much 1,000 words guy more than a picture guy. So users can come in through browser or mobile. You could tell the age of the user based on their preferred method. If they were born after 1984, they will use mobile. If they're born before 1984, they will use browser. That's pretty much it. I was born in 1982. I don't know why the fuck you'd use this on your phone. That's for little decisions, not big decisions. It is a Next JavaScript backend and then React front end. And Vercel, which is also my hosting provider, as you see at the bottom, has an AI SDK, which is incredibly useful. That's how I was able to rebuild it all so fast, is using the patterns out there. I have API routes that go everywhere. These are some of them, but basically Stripe is my Stripe is my billing provider. Supabase is my authorizing provider, my RAG database for all my content. And then it's also the database for all the messages. So Supabase is doing a lot of heavy lifting in the background. It's a giant Postgres database that is pretty fucking amazing, to be perfectly honest. I've been using Claude as my development partner, and I use Claude Chat. I've not used Claude Code yet. I have a plan to take Schutzbot out of Chatbase and move it into my own code that I'm going to use Claude Code for. But the metaphor I'll use is engineers I know are very comfortable with Claude Code for the same reason that I'm very comfortable with medical residents taking care of patients, because I know I can unfuck whatever they fuck. Whereas with code, I can't. Like, I know stuff now, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And so I don't want it to do anything autonomously without me. I want to have made every change so that I can fix it. Even the reverting capabilities of GitHub are not good enough for me. I want to know what was changed and why. So I sit in the middle of the chat and the code. I use Cursor, but I mostly just use his VS Code. Like Claude's in there somewhere doing shit, but I don't really know what it's doing and I don't let it do much. So I'm a bit of a control freak. Plus I want to learn, and that's my way of doing it. Claude is also what is behind the Schutzbank's voice. And that was just trial and error. I just tried all the different libraries of Chatbase, and Claude nailed what I was going for, and all the rest were terrible. So Claude gets all my business. OpenAI does embeddings. Fun fact, and I'll show you, I promise I'll show you the doc soon. Text embedding large is the larger, more expensive model. I tried text embedding small based on the size. I've got a megabyte worth of data that it's using, and it was not able to connect enough dots for the duck to work. So apparently my thoughts are so complicated and interconnected. I need 3,000 vectors to get them to talk to each other. 1,500 vectors is not enough. And it was kind of weird that the duck didn't work until I literally changed the word small to large, and then everything worked. Like that was one of those magic moments in development where one word fixed everything. And then I have security stuff. I actually just had my friend run a professional grade free security audit over the weekend, which meant I spent much of this week fixing everything, which is pretty cool. And I have a whole stuff, like a whole dev process I'm happy to nerd out about, but let's get to the actual duck now. Questions before I dive in?
I had one question around, so you said you use only Claude Chat, and so you have the desktop-based Claude application.
Yep.
And then how do you point it to your local files or otherwise? Yeah.
So everything local is repeatedly and synced up to GitHub, one commit at a time. And then I have GitHub linked to Claude. And so it has access to my private repo. I would say it works 85% of the time. It's like, I can't see your files. Like, check the project files. I can't see your files. Check the GitHub repo. Oh, I found them. Like, okay, great. It's like Claude stems from, I don't know. It's like working with a genius coworker that also has a drinking problem. And you never know, like, which one you're going to get. Like, are you drunk today? Are you hungover today? Like, which Claude am I getting? I don't know if you noticed on Monday, if any of you use Claude. Daylight savings broke it over the weekend somehow. And Monday, it was terrible. And that was the day that I was doing all my security work. So I don't know what the fuck we did. Like, I'm still waiting to see what will break based on the security changes I made because Claude was hungover that day from partying too much on daylight savings. So that's why I haven't. Originally, I was pasting stuff in, and I had to do that as a backstop, but that eats up context really fast.
And you haven't used Cloud Code in the app?
Nope. Nope. So what I'm going to do is, the reason why I haven't used Cloud, again, because I don't want to release on anything it could break and I can't fix. So Schutzbot is sort of the like simple version of Schutzduck. The most important part is its corpus of RAG data is all Schutz blogs, which are public-ish, right? There's a paywall on some of them, but they're effectively public. So there's no really risk in it exposing like its brain. My prompt is good, but it's not magic. Like it's not, if you used it without the RAG corpus, it wouldn't be that helpful. So like that's not that super valuable. So that gets spilled, so what? And the Schutz bot prompt is even simpler. And then there's no user data. Nothing's stored in a database. There's no auth, there's no payment. So like I'm going to use Cloud Code to build Schutzbot again based off of Schutzduck. And if it fucks it up, I don't care because like there's not much to lose. So that's sort of my titration. And then I assume I'll get comfortable with it and I'll never look back. That's what I assume will happen. But I wanted to find a safe enough use case. I don't know, it's like using a medicine for the first time, like doing a controlled setting, right? Like the OR table is the safest place in the world because if you die, we can bring you back. Cool. All right, should we dive the duck?
Yeah, definitely. Let's check out how you've got it.
All right, so this is it. This is as nice as I can design anything. Just so we're clear. Paid for the logo. Wisdom on Demand was my idea. I'm good at the words. These rotating quotes update in real time. If any of you said something really smart and I get your permission, the quote will be in about 10 minutes. So the quotes get up here. They sit in my database. It's free, 5 messages a day. That is designed to get a taste. The entire business model here is addiction independence. Let's be clear.
Are any of those messages, could you repeat that? I didn't understand that.
Nope, it's no bullshit. And actually, and I will show you, remind me when we get to the stop function of how my goal is not to fuck with you. My goal is to give you 5 solid answers and have you totally hooked so you buy. I have toyed with, but not yet built because it is work. Something between free and pro, which is you can buy message packs. That's part of why I migrated. The challenge is like, if I give you a free message and you lose a message, that's annoying, but you can it's fine. But if I give you a message and you pay for messages and you lose a message, now I got support tickets to deal with. And so I'm just working on message stability, which I think is pretty solid now. But as I keep finding things, it just makes me put off the idea of selling individual messages as sort of way more pain than it's worth. So especially if I can get people to keep converting.
You're like, DPC is good, but maybe fee for service could also work.
Correct. Well, somebody asked me once at Cricket, they're like, do nephrologists want fee for service revenue or value-based revenue? And I said, yes. So pro is, and if you notice the word unlimited isn't anywhere, because it's not, because there are still system limits, right? Claude will still limit me. I'm still calling Claude. But pro is not, there's no daily limits, right? So I had to I don't actually know what the limits are. People have found them experimentally. And so I've had to put safeguards in and change things to prevent it from getting shut down by, accidental denial of service attacks from my users. And that's part of the journey. But pro is basically the functionally unlimited version of Schutzduck. And I picked $49 out of thin air. The duck said $97. I halved it, and here we are. We'll see as I get more cost data and user data if that's the right price or not, if the margin's good enough, et cetera. But that's kind of where we are, still playing with pricing. And then Schutzduck for Teams is where I think this is where the value really takes off. People have asked for, I want to talk to this thing with my team. I want it in my Slack. I want it on my company's data that I don't want to give to you. And so I think that's a much bigger number, but I think the architecture is already in place. So my goal is to get enough people hooked that they want to bring it back to work, and then we can really get going on Schutzduck for Teams. And then I sell 10 Teams contracts, and then I really don't have to work anymore. That's the goal.
I think Misha's got a good question. There's some, circus banter, which is also great. But Misha asked a good question about more of the observability and eval stuff.
Yeah,
you wanna ask the question?
No. So, am I using LLM proxy like LightM? No. So everything, I don't even know what that is. So everything I'm doing is Claude managed, basically. So let me show you staging. There we go. And this is very much a work in progress, but here are my metrics. So my cousin who does email marketing or does marketing for nerd stuff said, what platform is this? And I said, JavaScript. So Claude and I just made this all, and we're making it all. So it's basically playing with what I want to know, but it's like, here's user growth, here's daily message volume, here's live right now, it's me because I just logged in, you saw that. How many free users, how many pro users, who have I comped? And then I can see messages, right? That's part of the deal, is I can get in to debug them. I'm not going to click, let me see this is a fake one that I used to try and test it out. This is what I can see. And I'm building in what RAG chunks are being used, and then the cost per message. I'm starting building in more metrics because I have them all. It's literally like when I get off this call and do two more things, the next big sprint is all admin behind the scenes. And then I have an analytic. I don't think this works right now, so I'm not going to run it. But I have an AI theme analyzer. Let's just see what happens. Where this takes a download of messages, cuts the head off of them so there's no identifiable information in them, sends them to Claude for aggregate analysis, and I get back what are people asking, where are people asking things that the duck can't answer, where are people asking things the duck shouldn't be asking, and it like effectively derails them, and where's the duck get led astray. So I can use that for tuning the duck, for figure out what content to put in. Where does the data come from? I mean, how's it stored? It's stored in Supabase. I'll show you that in a second. So we'll see if this works or not. Paul has a question.
Yeah. So and others can jump in too if you want to raise your hand or put stuff in comments like Misha's doing. The prompt manager, I think, can you talk through your process, how you manage prompts?
Yes. So let me ask the duck a live question first, just so you can see it.
Yeah, of course.
Someone give me a question to ask. Something, anything.
I'll wait for someone else to call.
Physicians screwed in value-based care.
Say that again. How are physicians screwed in value-based care?
Yes.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Ta-da. Fun feature. You can click right there and copy it, and then it copies it in Markdown so you can paste it somewhere else. Also, there's a suite of emojis, including custom emojis. It's very important. A lot of my code base is based on custom emojis. Let's just can't move past that. So that's what it does, right? And then I say, actually.
Definitely has a cool personality. Nice.
Thank you.
It does sound like you.
Okay. All right, that's the actual duck. All right, so now what do you want to look at next?
Let's look at prompt management.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing and then reshare.
And you can talk it through too.
Yes. So let me do that actually. Yeah. So I started with the initial prompt that Chatbase gave you, and I started adding like my understanding of what I wanted it to do differently. And then as problems would come up or the duck would perform strangely, I would chat with Claude on how to make the prompts better. So I'm basically asking it how to ask it to perform them more the way I want. And then I also use Gemini as my kind of like checker for Claude if I need a second AI opinion. But I would just iterate on prompting. One thing I've noticed working with some of my companies and kind of AI people and software people is they inadvertently revert to waterfall, where they like want to get the prompt right. So they spend a lot of time working getting the prompt right. And the mentality is we want to get a prompt that will roughly output the same output for every input. So like how do we make, and the fundamental way of saying this, how do we make this AI work more like software? Like it doesn't, and it's not the point, especially explicitly with an advisory. Like I won't give you the same answer every time. I'm kind of all over the place. That's the fun part, right? So I didn't have that. Yes, overfitting is amazing. So I didn't have that pressure. It's like, why don't I just see what's the minimum prompt I can get away with, see what it gives me, and figure out where I think the problems are. And the idea of like, I don't know what to tell it, but I know what good looks like. And so a lot of the help I got from Claude and Gemini was restructuring the syntax of prompts to make it more friendly for LLM consumption, but not content, which is no different than what I was doing with code, right? It's like, I want the website to do this. It's like, cool, you have to then write it like this. But I still decided what I wanted it to do. So my prompts live in GitHub, so that as I have version control of them over time. I just put in prompt caching so that I don't pay as much for my system prompt being sent every message. The problem was my system prompt was like 1,900 tokens, and the minimum for Sonnet 4.6 is like 2048 tokens. So I just added a bunch more to the prompt, which is just more examples of what I sound like, just to make it longer so I could pay less. So perverse incentives aside. So yeah, this little prompts folder here. So Schutzbank system is the system prompt. Writing guide is a secret feature that's only available for me that recognizes me as a user and it being on staging, and it will kick into a mode where it helps me write Schutz blogs. So like I put that in yesterday because I'd worked on a process with it. I was like, I don't want to give you this every time, so I'll do it. So the prompt's pretty simple. The actual prompt itself is a construct of the duck system prompt, the writing guide prompt, so that only triggers if I'm there, and then the system date, because it was giving me all sorts of weird hallucinations about date and time, so I inject the date into it, and then the RAG content. So I have a system set up where it goes and looks and takes your question and goes, looks at all my data and figures out what it should bring and then brings the chunks in. And so it's set up in such a way that, and then it takes the appended conversation and it puts the appended conversation in before the system date and the RAG chunks, so that as the conversation gets longer and longer and longer, it's the same, like the amount that's the same from the beginning gets longer instead of there being a dynamic bit in the middle. And so I'm able to cache more of it. So basically, like I pay less. People were costing me relatively a lot of money because all the messages were different and they're all fresh. And now basically like appends the new information on the end of it. So each time it gets cached longer and longer and longer. So it gets sent back, as it gets sent back and forth to Claude, it doesn't cost as much because it's substantially the same. And so it turns out where you put the dynamic part makes a big difference in cost. Learned that literally this week from Claude. Hope it's real.
Can you talk about RAG? Because I would say most of us here have created content ourselves, whether through blogging or publishing elsewhere or whatnot. So I think most people are kind of curious about that. Yep. How do you think about building the brain part that makes you sound different from just frontier models?
So the Schutzbank RAG component, RAG engine, either took me 15 years or 2 days to build, depending on your perspective. So it took me 15 years to write everything. But what I've done is, so I have a couple RAG sources. And every one of them is processed for the duck now. So originally I just literally pointed the sitemap and Chatbase would crawl the website, which is all sorts of problems. It worked, but it's like unstable. So now every time I write a blog, I download it and I process it through Claude to like strip out all the unnecessary HTML and put it in some good headers. So it's structured the same every time. I have a couple different types of content that go in. So the blog is, I think, the most by volume. I also have video transcripts. So like this gets put through a different script that summarizes it, but keeps my tone of voice. So it's not a direct transcript. And that provides more information. That's more for content. It's kind of a balance of content. When I have advisory meetings with mostly with people rather than clients, you have to click a button when you sign up for the meeting that says like standard versus private. And if you choose standard, I will take the content of the meeting, run it through another anonymizer script that runs in the Google universe that I built with Gemini. Takes out all the company names and all the kind of relevant information. It takes away years. It changes like 5 years ago to a handful of years, things like that. So you really pretty thoroughly anonymizes it. And then that gets output. And then I put that in RAG as well. Those are kind of my spiciest and most privileged documents. And so those actually only live on my machine for long enough to get put in my database, and then they get deleted. So they only live in Google Docs and Supabase. And then they're all tracked. So if someone requests deletion, I can rip it out of the database. I can't unshow it to the people that saw content from that message before, but it's not like it doesn't get added to any model. It's extractable later on. So that's a bargain I've struck with various robot demons and humans, and it seems to work, right? Where people are happy to help. My record, I had a conversation on Thursday, maybe last week. It was Monday this week. That ended at 1:30. By 1:43, the content was in the doc. It used to be I'd have an idea during a meeting, I'd jot notes for a Schutz blog. Many hours, many months later, I'd write it and I'd publish it and I'd put it in. Now it's 13 minutes. So like the cycle just speeds up. So all those get embedded in chunks through a script that Claude and I wrote, put into my database, and then there's a second arm and it's by type of document. And I built a bunch of shell scripts to automate that because I like everything being one line. And then I realized I had a shell script that had all this operational content in it that I wasn't backing up. So I made something called Zpack, which backs up my shell scripts. So everything's got a fun name. The process of putting new stuff in the database is called ragtime, right? Everything's got to have a good name. So ragtime takes everything, puts it in my staging database. I test it with conversation with the duck. And then I've ragtime promote, moves it from staging to production directly. So I have a staging to production channel for my database as well as for my website through GitHub. So everything is revertible and reversible, et cetera. And the nice part about the RAG data is I can always just wipe it all out if I need to and start over. So it's not like message content where I like losing it is really bad. If the RAG gets wiped, I have all the raw material, I can put it back in. So it's not dangerous if something leaks in. It's easy to kind of revert. So everything I've designed is designed to like tear it down quickly if I needed to, if there's a problem.
This is awesome. Okay, so we had budgeted around this much time to do the presentation and chat. Do you guys, we can stay a little over and have any questions from people in the audience?
Can I answer Michael's question?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Michael had a question, yeah.
So yes, she's one of the first. So I actually use Notebook LM as an intermediary, and she's like, "Yep, sounds like you, kind of annoying." And so that was a good indicator. Recently, she came home from work, and she's like, "I have this work question. Should I talk to the duck about it instead of you?" And I was like, "Yes, because you've been talking to me about work for 3 years, and I've been wildly unhelpful. So maybe the duck can help you." And she's like, "Yeah, no, it's really good. I like this." So she begrudgingly accepts that the duck is helpful. My daughter loves it. Of my 3 children, she's 10. She loves the duck. And my favorite quote about my daughter is, "Hey, when are you going to get on that merch?" All she wants to do is market the duck for me. She wants stickers. She wants hats. She wants pens. So she will be in charge of marketing as soon as I'm able to get her to do that. But yes, would she believe it's me? Yeah, probably.
So it passes the Turing test in your own.
I think so. I haven't quite wired it up to my SMS yet. That would be the key.
Do you imagine adding voice and other things?
I don't know. I think I'm going to add voice input. So you can like voice memo it because that's not too revolutionary of a feature. I will add voice output when there's serious paying demand because it's expensive relative to text output. So like I have people who are like, I will only pay you, or I'm only paying you if I get to talk to it. Like I think it'd be cool and novel, but I don't know that it actually makes much economic sense beyond the novelty. And also, from my understanding, technically, it's not that, like, it would prove nothing, if that makes sense. Like, yes, it can be done. So it's more like, do people want enough to pay for it? There you go.
Very nice. Okay, well, I think this is a good part for us to maybe take any questions offline. I'll pause the recording. So thank you, Andrew, for sharing everything. This has been fantastic.